Hello and welcome to Wavescan, the international DX program from Adventist World Radio. Researched and written in Indianapolis by Dr. Adrian Peterson and produced in the studios of WRMI Shortwave in Okeechobee, Florida. I'm Jeff White. Today on Wavescan, a visit to All India Radio, Kanpur on Shortwave. Rare, unusual, unique QSLs, AWR's Focus on Asia 2014 Annual DX Contest. We'll have the details. Wavescan presents Focus on Asia, a year-long series of reports about shortwave broadcasting and listening on the continent of Asia. All India Radio, AIR, is one of the world's largest radio broadcasting stations. They have erected numerous shortwave transmitting sites throughout the country for external service coverage, as well as for domestic broadcasting. Back in April 2010, a group of 3 well-known international radio monitors made a visit to the AIR shortwave transmitting station at Kanpur, which is located on the swampy outskirts of the city of Delhi. The external service of All India Radio at the time of their visit was on the air via shortwave transmitting sites at Kanpur, near Delhi, 7 transmitters at 250 kilowatts, Kingsway, Delhi, 2 100-kilowatt transmitters and 3 50 kilowatts. Malad, near Mumbai, 1 100-kilowatt transmitter. Gorakhpur, near Nepal, with 1 50-kilowatt transmitter. Dodbalapur, in Bangalore, 6 500-kilowatt transmitters. Aligarh, in North India, with 4 250-kilowatt transmitters. Bambolim, near Goa, with 2 250-kilowatt transmitters, and Guwahati in Assam with 1 50-kilowatt and 1 200-kilowatt medium-wave transmitters. The visit to the station by 3 visitors, T.R. Rajesh, Alokesh Gupta, and Anker Peterson from Denmark, was organized by the former station engineer of Delhi Kanpur, Mr. V. Baleja. After visiting the AIR headquarters on Parliament Street, New Delhi, the 3 visitors traveled by car for a little over half an hour to reach the Kanpur station, which is located 25 kilometers from New Delhi. On the way to the Kanpur station, they saw the Delhi Kingsway transmitting site from the road. This 256-acre site is used for transmitting programs on shortwave for the national service as well as for the external services beamed to India's South Asian neighbors. They also saw the self-radiating mast of the AIR New Delhi medium wave station at Nangli, which is capable of broadcasting in the DRM mode. The Delhi Kanpur transmitting station is located on a large 630-acre site in the swampy fields of Kanpur village in outer Delhi, bordering on the state of Haryana. While approaching the transmitting station, they could see the antenna towers and the curtain arrays from the road. Several photos of the antenna masts were taken from the roadside, as they were aware that it is impossible to take photos inside where photography is prohibited. On the way to the station office, they saw much wildlife in the swampy field. The dancing peacocks, doves, and storks welcomed them without any official formalities. Station engineer Mrs. Sonilata Saigalan welcomed the visitors to her office, and she was amazed that 3 international radio monitors would travel so far to visit this transmitter site. Anker Peterson told her that the broadcasts from this station can be heard quite well in Denmark, and he suggested that he could send monitoring reports to her. The station engineer replied that such reports are forwarded to the Frequency Management Division in New Delhi. The superintending engineer, Mr. S.K. Agarwal, who is the chief of the station, directed the station engineer to show the visitors the transmitters and antenna field. They observed the old and new transmitters, as well as a new DRM transmitter, and also the antenna towers and the vast arrays of shortwave curtain antennas. This Kanpur station houses 7 250-kilowatt shortwave transmitters and 36 antenna masts and 49 curtain arrays. A special power substation provides electricity to this transmitter station. At the time, the Delhi Kanpur station had a staff of around 200 employees, including 50 engineers and technicians. The Delhi Kanpur transmitter site was opened on January 1st, 1959, and the first transmitter was a 100-kilowatt Marconi, which was more recently sold as scrap. 2 AWA units from Australia at 20 kilowatts each were installed in 1962. During 1965, 4 more transmitters were installed, 2 at 50 kilowatts and 2 at 100 kilowatts, made by STC, Standard Telephones and Cables of Australia. A recent modernization plan was undertaken to transform Kanpur into an external services transmission facility. All of the new transmitters were placed in an oblong but spacious antenna switching hall, and all of the AWA and STC transmitters were retired from service. In 1989, 2 250-kilowatt Brown Boveri transmitters were commissioned exclusively for the external services. Then, 2 new modern Continental Electronics units were installed in June 2000. During the year 2002, 3 new 250-kilowatt Tomcast transmitters were commissioned for the external services, and this converted Kanpur into the second largest transmitting station of All India Radio after Bangalore. The Delhi Kanpur transmitting station celebrated its 50th anniversary in 2009 with the participation of listeners and engineering staff. DRM, or Digital Radio Mondiale, is the new trend in shortwave broadcasting, particularly in India. Like many other major shortwave broadcasters, All India Radio has also introduced DRM transmission on shortwave. It is from this site, Delhi Kanpur, that AIR has tested DRM transmissions for both domestic and international audiences. A 250-kilowatt Thales Tomcast transmitter was converted to DSB DRM capability with an output of 55 kilowatts for domestic transmission on 6,100 kilohertz and on 9950 kilohertz for external service to Europe. The domestic transmission is monitored inside the transmitter building with a Chinese-manufactured Himalaya DRM receiver. During the evening, after the informative visit to AIR Kanpur, there was an informal meeting with local international radio monitors in New Delhi. For those who would like to do so, reception reports for AIR Delhi Kanpur may be addressed to AIR High Power Transmitting Station Kanpur, that's KHAMPUR, Grand Trunk Karnal, KARNAL, Road, Delhi, 1110036 in India. That address again is AIR High Power Transmitting Station Kanpur, KHAMPUR, Grand Trunk, TRUNK, Karnal, KARNAL, Road, Delhi, 1110036 in India. And thanks very much for information used in this feature to Alakesh Gupta of New Delhi, photos and support from Anker Peterson of Denmark, and T.R. Rajesh for the original article, which has been adapted for broadcast.
ये ऑल इंडिया रेडियो की उर्दू सर्विस है। सामाइन इस वक्त ऑल इंडिया रेडियो की उर्दू सर्विस का नशिया DTH यानी डायरेक्ट टू होम सर्विस इंटरनेट और 1071 किलोहर्ट्ज पर दस्तयाब है।
You're listening to Wavescan from Adventist World Radio. Send your comments and reception reports to Wavescan, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana 46229 in the United States. That's Wavescan, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana 46229 in the USA. Or you can email us at wavescan@awr.org. Our email once again, wavescan at awr.org.
Well, the time has come. Beginning on Monday, September 1st, it is contest month for AWR Wavescan. As Adventist World Radio enters its 43rd year of international radio broadcasting, we take pleasure in announcing our annual Wavescan DX contest, which comes to you under the title Rare, Unusual, Unique QSLs. In short, you are invited to check your collection of QSL cards and letters for rare, unusual, and unique QSLs from shortwave, medium wave, and communication stations throughout the world. You're also invited to log AWR programming to Asia on shortwave, medium wave, or FM during the month of September 2014. Here now are all the details of our 2014 Rare, Unusual, Unique QSLs AWR Focus on Asia Annual DX Contest. Part A is Rare, Unique, and Unusual QSL cards and letters. You're invited to make a list of what you consider to be your rare, unique, or unusual QSL cards or letters in your QSL collection. Perhaps no one else in the world has a QSL verifying some transmissions that you have verified. Your list of QSLs can show any number of different rare, unique, or unusual QSLs up to a total of 5 QSLs. Your QSLs may verify a wrong transmission channel, or an emergency broadcast due to flood, fire, earthquake, turmoil, etc., or a transmission from an emergency transmitter, or test broadcasts, or first broadcast, or last broadcast, unusual propagation, etc. These QSLs can be from any shortwave broadcasting station or shortwave communication station or medium wave station located in any country anywhere in the world. Amateur QSLs nor CB QSLs are not valid for this contest. Now, Part B. Details of the rare, unique, and unusual QSL cards and letters. Please state very briefly, no more than one paragraph for each, why you consider each item in your list of QSLs is rare, unique, or unusual. You're invited to provide a photocopy of each of the QSLs that are on your list in Part A. Preferably, these photocopies should be in color, though black and white copies may be acceptable. Part 3. AWR Reception Reports. You're invited to prepare 3 reception reports for the broadcast on shortwave, medium wave, or FM of any AWR Asian programming. These broadcasts from Adventist World Radio may be from shortwave, medium wave, or FM stations located anywhere in Asia or on nearby Asian islands, or AWR programming beamed into Asia on shortwave from other countries. It is not necessary to send an off-air recording of your reception. We just need your honest reception report on paper. Part D of the contest is an Adventist photograph. You're invited to visit a unit of the Seventh-day Adventist denomination in your country and take a photograph of it, preferably in color, though black and white can be acceptable, and submit one picture with your contest entry. And finally, Part E, 3 radio cards. Where possible, you're invited to include 3 radio cards for the Indianapolis Heritage Collection with your contest entry. These cards may be old or new, and they may be QSL cards, reception report cards, or picture cards of radio stations, etc. Not valid for this contest are amateur cards nor CB cards. Well, there you have it, the details for our Wavescan 2014 Rare, Unusual, Unique QSLs AWR Focus on Asia Annual DX Contest. This contest will run through the month of September 2014, and all contest entries should be postmarked at your local post office anywhere in the world on any date up to the end of the month of September. And they should be received at the AWR post office address in Indianapolis no later than the end of the month of October 2014. Partial and incomplete entries are considered valid. Post your entry with all items to Adventist World Radio in Indianapolis, remembering that neatness and preparation will all feature in the judging procedure. Due consideration will also be given to the area of the world in which the contestant lives. Where possible, please enclose return postage in the form of currency notes in any international currency or mint postage stamps. Please note that IRC coupons are too expensive for you to buy, and they are no longer valid in the United States. Please enclose your postal address label also. The awards for the 2014 AWR Rare, Unusual, Unique QSLs AWR Focus on Asia Annual DX Contest will be similar to all previous contests. There will be a special award for the world winner, one of the Jerome Berg Radio History books, and World Radio TV Handbook 2015 for each continental winner. In addition, there will be other special awards as well as AWR souvenirs and radio curios for many participants. You can remember that all AWR reception reports will be verified with a specially endorsed AWR QSL card. Please remember that it will take a period of many months, well into the new year 2015, to process all of the contest entries and reception reports, but each will in due course be processed. The only address for the Rare, Unusual, Unique QSLs AWR Focus on Asia Annual DX Contest is QSL DX Contest, Adventist World Radio, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46229, USA. Again, that's QSL DX Contest, Adventist World Radio, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46229, USA. You're listening to Wavescan, and next we have a recording from this year's 2014 NASB, National Association of Shortwave Broadcasters, annual meeting in Greenville, North Carolina. It's George Ross from KTWR, the Transworld radio station in Guam, talking about their experimentation with DRM broadcasting.
Well, it's great to be back stateside finally and see everyone that's here today. It's so great to catch up and have some fellowship and start talking about shortwave, which is pretty obviously our passion as we all talk with that. I've met many of you at the HFCC conferences or back in 2007 when the NASB conference was in Elkhart. I remember ending that conference in Elkhart and sitting down with Mike Adams and Charlie Jacobson, and they almost shut the lights out on us in Elkhart because we're talking and dreaming about DRM, how it's going to affect every one of us, and it's going to really start to move shortwave broadcasting ahead. Well, that was 7 years ago, and here we are. Basically, it's the same thing. But to start out with my DRM sharing, before these guys, Christopher and Calvin, get to it tomorrow, I'm just going to give you an update of what we've done and what we've seen happen with our Transworld Radio site on Guam. We're the Transworld Radio Asia shortwave site. We have other sites too. But we've recently gone through a now 4-year transmitter replacement project and upgrade of our site too. I don't have any pictures. I'm just going to talk with you today. But in the midst of this, we had two 2250D Thompson transmitters that we installed, and they were built as DRM transmitters. They previously had broadcasts that were put out by Ludo. It was TDP at the time. Now it's Radio Belgium, but he did DRM broadcasts from Australia when those transmitters were there. So we installed them. It's taken a couple of years to get everything done. And then for the last year, both A13 and B13 seasons, we were doing tests to see how our broadcast could be if we could step up to our 250 kilowatt analog broadcast. And of course, one thing we really wanted to do was to be testing DRM. Well, the analog tests went well, and the antennas loved the transmitters. They've got a great relationship now, and we're broadcasting over the two transmitters. But we started first off because of the interest and because of the way All India Radio is gearing up to have that country completely change off the grid from all their analog broadcasts to DRM. I don't know if you're all familiar with that. But all of their terrestrial broadcasts by the year 2017 are going to be DRM, AM, FM, shortwave. They've installed a large number of 1 megawatt medium wave transmitters. They've got, 26 shortwave transmitters they've also installed, and they're working towards DRM plus with their FM transmitters. So we're going to shoot to India with our first tests at the beginning of last year, which we did. We did 75 kilowatt DRM test. And if you're familiar with the footprint of a DRM broadcast, it's about, if for a 75 kilowatt DRM footprint is the same as a 300 kilowatt analog footprint. So it covers the area that we would want to in India. And we decided we were going to go with our stereo mode B for that test. So we put everything we had into this first shot. And we broadcast there with some very high-quality concert music that was put together, as well as the audio. I guess you picked it up, Chris.
I heard the file.
But I don't know if some of you may have heard of Victor Gunatelik. He's a very well-known monitor. The first monitor report we had back was a phone call from Victor. And he said, "This is the best radio broadcast I have ever heard in my life." And he said, "I will send you what my recording sounded like." He could pick up the concert pitch in his ear. That's what DRM can do. And again, this is just a test. So we continued on with some different tests. We tried some different azimuths. We have 293. We even tried 305 to see how that would affect as we did the great circle shot around the northern part of India, 285. And, the test always came back positive, and the response from India was great from the DXers that were listening. But at the same time, we were getting just as many responses for our India DRM tests from Japan, because we're broadcasting in 19 meter band, and the side lobe to the India broadcast was hitting Japan. And the people there are getting excited. We usually, for our English broadcasts, we get a lot of reception reports from Japan, which I'm sure most of you do too. Well, they kept writing to us and saying, "Could you do something in Japanese?" And now they're saying, "Could you do DRM to Japan in Japanese?" And so we decided to start following up on this. And we had our studio folks say, "Okay, we did high quality. Let's see what we can do to Japan." And so we did a question to some Japanese producers we used to have, say, "Can you duplicate what we did in English in Japanese? Just kind of make it real personal and do it your way." So they did. They gave us a great block, and we put it out over the air. The response was overwhelming from the listeners in Japan. And the interesting thing was, in 2006, we stopped our Japanese analog broadcasts. The announcer that we had in 2006 did the test blocks that we did just last year. The people writing in recognized her voice in an instant. Is she going to be back on the air again? So we started to look at the possibility. We said, okay, if we do this, we need to know we've got listenership in Japan. Can you do a listener survey for us? Because obviously, as you probably are well aware, most of the receivers out there are SDR receivers. So we're dealing with a chicken-egg situation, and we're going to have radios for the broadcast. Is it worth broadcasting without having the receivers out there? So what do we have in Japan? Well, they told us that the shortwave listeners there are different than anywhere else in the world. So as I mentioned that, I'm going to back up just a little bit. I'm sure most of you get reports from Japan. Japan is very unique because it is not, let's say, a lower class people that listen to shortwave there. When you're talking about the multitude of people around the world you want to reach, usually they're in closed countries or in closed areas. You want inexpensive radios and lots of them to be able to reach the people. In Japan, most of the listeners are upper middle class. Their radios are SDRs for the most part. They also have a number of other DRM radios that are out there, but we were basically, through the survey, told we have 11,000 listeners if we immediately start. And they said, we're sure this will shoot up to even more. If you do DRM and analog, we can say you've got 35,000 listeners. Japan is off the grid when it comes to looking at shortwave listeners. And from my surveys that we've done from our test broadcasts, the two most likely locations in the Asia area to listen to shortwave are India and Japan. Well, Japan worked, so we now have our first DRM broadcast regularly to Japan, and we're getting reception reports all the time from there, finally listening to something in their own language. The interesting thing that I was just given last night from our chief engineer was, you know what I've noticed about these reports when they come in? Usually you get a report and it's written, it gives you the SINPO, and it'll give you some comments about the broadcast, but what is it, 5 or 10 minutes long maybe, if it's a good report? Every one of the reports we've had come in, listen to the entire broadcast. So it's an hour broadcast. It's remarkable to get that type of thing, and of course we've got these little DVDs that they send in by the mail, so we can hear the entire broadcast back over again too. But this is very unique. Japan is a phenomenon for listening to shortwave, and it's a phenomenon for listening to DRM. But I think it's a real indication of what it can be or will be, especially if India does kick in and get receivers out there within the next year or so, which is what we're really hoping.
You were listening to George Ross in a recording from the 2014 annual meeting of the NASB, the National Association of Shortwave Broadcasters, in Greenville, North Carolina. And George, of course, is with KTWR, the Transworld radio station in Guam. Thanks for listening to Wavescan, the international DX program from Adventist World Radio, researched and written in Indianapolis by Adrian Peterson. Several QSL cards are available for your reports on this program. Send your AWR and KSDA reception reports for Wavescan to the AWR address in Indianapolis, and also to the station your radio is tuned to, WRMI or WWCR or KVOH, or to the AWR relay stations that carry Wavescan. Next week on this program, American medium wave stations on superpower, and our Japan DX report. Our address is Wavescan, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46229, USA. That's Wavescan, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46229, USA. Our email is wavescan@awr.org. That's wavescan@awr.org. I'm Jeff White at WRMI in Okeechobee, Florida, and we leave you today with some music from All India Radio. Till next time, good listening, everyone.